An elected official in Washington, D.C. fined for committing voter fraud. She voted twice in the 2020 general election. Vanessa Rubio is an advisory neighborhood commissioner in Ward 4. The D.C. Board of Elections says she voted in person in both Maryland and D.C. in the November 2020 elections. Rubio admitted to voting twice, but she said she didn't know it was illegal since D.C. isn't a state. She got a $500 fine. The election board also fined another 5 people for double voting, a fine of $100 each. Rubio's fine was higher because she was an elected official. The election board says the 6 cases are unrelated. 2 alarming milestones on immigration, a new record for the highest number of illegal entries into the U.S. in a single day, as the backlog of pending immigration cases is surging to an unprecedented 3 million. NTD's Arian Pastar has more.
Republican Senator James Lankford says the U.S. saw the most ever single-day illegal border crossings on Monday, with over 12,000 people entering unlawfully, adding that Homeland Security can only process 500 people a day. That means 11,800 people have been released into the country, and we have no idea who they are. In related news, Lankford says lawmakers won't be able to pass Biden's supplemental aid package this year. The proposal would allocate money to Ukraine, Israel, and America's southern border. Republicans want stricter immigration laws to be included in the aid package. Here is Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer commenting on the issue on Tuesday.
Finding common ground on the border has been difficult. In fact, one of the most difficult issues Congress has faced in a good while. We have more work to do, and that's going to take more time.
However, there's another immigration bill which did pass this week. Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed a law making it a state crime to illegally enter Texas.
The only thing we are doing by this law is making sure that our law enforcement have the tools they need to actually take action against those who are actually coming across the border illegally.
The measure gives local law officials the ability to arrest immigrants who are trying to sneak into the Lone Star State. And the U.S. broke another record regarding immigration. The backlog of pending cases in immigration courts passed 3 million for the first time ever this November. Judges are swamped with an average of 4,500 pending cases each. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
A new multinational coalition setting out to protect a vital shipping lane in the Red Sea. That says rounds of rocket attacks by Iran-backed Houthis are forcing cargo ships to reroute or cancel operations.
Ships and aircraft from multiple nations are and will continue to join the United States in conducting maritime surveillance and taking defensive action as appropriate to protect commercial ships from the threat posed by the Houthis.
9 countries, including the UK, Canada, and France, will join the U.S.-led mission. Some are ramping up maritime patrols, while others are backing each other up with intelligence support. Since the beginning of the Israel-Hamas war, the Yemeni Houthis have been supporting Hamas by attacking vessels that cross the Red Sea. The strikes are triggering delays and pumping up gas prices as major shipping companies start to abandon their operations in the region. The trade route carries more than 10% of global trade. The Houthis were designated as a foreign terrorist organization under former President Trump. That's until the Biden administration reversed that label in 2021 to allow humanitarian aid into Yemen. The Israel-Hamas war is revealing cracks within the Democratic Party. Poll after poll showing that young voters are dissatisfied with President Biden's handling of the war. And now a New York Times poll says voters trust former President Trump over Biden on this issue. Here's the latest.
1,000 voters nationwide were asked about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Just 1/3 of them said they approve of President Biden's approach, and 46% said they think former President Trump would do a better job. Nearly 3/4 of voters between the ages of 18 and 29 disapprove of Biden's approach to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. This according to a New York Times Siena College poll. Illustrating the point, today in the U.S. Capitol, a protest broke out. A large group of protesters took advantage of a Capitol tour to unravel banners and started chanting, "Ceasefire now." Capitol Police used zip ties to arrest around 60 people. Progressive Democrats have long criticized Israel and Biden's support for the Jewish state.
We cannot unwind ourselves from the destiny of all other workers in the world. And that means standing for peace and standing for a ceasefire in Gaza now.
Thousands of civilians being killed, that two wrongs certainly don't make it right. There has to be a ceasefire.
In recent weeks, the Biden administration expressing increased concern about civilian death.
Protecting Palestinian civilians in Gaza is both a moral duty and a strategic imperative.
Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin in Tel Aviv yesterday saying the ultimate solution is for Israelis and Palestinians to live side by side.
Talks for another hostage deal in Gaza and the Biden campaign's reaction to Trump's comments on illegal immigrants. Joining us to discuss is Patel, a former Trump administration official and currently serving as a senior Trump advisor. Patel, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, it's great to be back on Epoch.
And top U.S. intelligence and defense officials are right now pushing to relaunch another hostage deal on the ground in Gaza. The White House today saying that there are about 8 Americans still believed to have been taken hostage by Hamas. What do you think about the prospect of another deal here, and what should be done differently this time to avoid another breakdown?
Yeah, look, I had a lot of participation with President Trump's hostage recovery operations. We were able to bring back 54 hostages and detainees without spending a dollar and paying any ransom. And that's more than every president brought home combined. So hostage negotiations are some of the toughest things in the world. And look, as an American, you want every American rescued and you want to do everything you can. But you have to be careful not to set a precedent that creates a incentive for terrorist groups to take more hostages. And what I mean by that is Joe Biden agreed to pay the Ayatollahs in Iran, the largest state sponsor of terror, $6 billion to recover our last set of hostages. I'm glad they're home, but what terrorist organizations around the world like Al-Qaeda, the Iranians, the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas are thinking now, if we got $6 billion last time, how much can we get this time? And they're going to exact some sort of price out of it. And so I think this policy that Joe Biden has set forward is a disastrous hostage rescue policy. And I think our enemies are going to take advantage of him yet again. But let me just reemphasize, bringing home Americans is always the priority. It is just an enormously difficult lift.
And on the same topic of the Middle East, the White House today saying that is considering redesignating Houthis as a terrorist organization. Do you think that's enough to deter them?
Well, here's the thing. You can't dictate a national security policy retroactively when you've already made the critical error. We have to prioritize national security here. And giving a foreign terrorist organization, the Houthis, a get-out-of-jail-free pass was a disastrous decision by the Biden administration. Remember, they're the ones that launched missiles at an American-guided cruiser in the Red Sea. They are the reason that companies today have pulled out of transit in the Red Sea, connecting to the Suez Canal, one of the important waterways in the world. And now the Biden administration is saying we got it wrong and we want to go backwards. Well, you've already given them the money. You have to go harder and faster than that if you want to rewind 2.5 terrible years of foreign policy decision-making power. And by the way, you've already given them billions of dollars.
And before I let you go here, turning back to domestic issues, former President Trump has been facing some criticism for his recent comments that illegal immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country. President Biden's campaign is already using that to attack Trump and comparing Trump to Hitler. What do you think about this fight ongoing over immigration policy going on right now?
President Trump had the greatest immigration stance in the United States history. He put up the wall, he safeguarded American citizens, and he has always been for a legal immigration policy. You're talking to one of his senior advisors from the administration and now, who is a minority, who is a current survivor of an immigrant family who led a lawful campaign to come to the United States of America. It's possible, and that's the right way to do it. What he has always been against is criminals who come in illegally and commit homicides. So when they turn to this cheap rhetoric, when they take phraseology out of context, that is exactly their last measure of effort, because they know their border policy has enormously failed, and America is hoping and wishing for a Donald Trump return because his border policies secured this country and prevented criminals from running amok.
Patel, thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much. Merry Christmas and happy holidays.
Christmas. Former Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day OConnor's funeral was today. Her family members, President Biden, and the current justices of the High Court attended a memorial service at a National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. today.
Sandra Day OConnor, the daughter of the American West, was a pioneer in her own right. breaking down the barriers in legal and political worlds and the nation's consciousness. To her, the Supreme Court was bedrock, the bedrock of America.
O'Connor was the first woman to ever serve on the nation's highest court. Biden and Chief Justice John Roberts delivered the eulogies. Biden says O'Connor helped empower generations of women. And Roberts says O'Connor was so successful that the barriers she broke down are almost unthinkable today. Then President Ronald Reagan nominated O'Connor to the Supreme Court in 1981. At the time, Biden was one of the senators who voted to confirm her. O'Connor retired in 2006. She died on December 1st at the age of 93.
Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.